welcome to the first review of the 4chan Patrician list series. I am very excited to start this, and I will start talking about a book that I started reading it solely because my friend couldn't read it and I wanted to prove that he is a wuss. Yes, I am talking about The Portrait of a Young Artist by Joyce. It's a book that exists. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I am not a fan of Bildungsroman. Essentially, a Bildungsroman is a story of a young kid growing up and becoming his own man or woman, but mostly man. And I say that because it's, in Twitter when they talk about classic literature, they talk, because it's all about white men, straight writers, and that's the vibe that I get from this book. You know the good Lolita movie, the one in black and white? There's a scene in which Lolita is a teenager and she's in the hospital. And there's this guy that really likes her, but he's like super pretentious and it's like, oh man, I want to have deep conversations with this teenager that I'm abusing. And then he comes into the hotel room and he brings a lot of books for her to read, and it's a lot of verbose books and really boring that aren't for teenagers to show how pretentious he is. One of the books is A Portrait of the Young Artist. It's so I'm not going to say that this book is easy because it isn't. It's a stream of consciousness type of narrative with an evolving vocabulary. I do like that. I like when writers and narrators, they get creative. But it might be a little hard to get used to if you're an experienced reader, because you start with the kid being really young, so it's like moo cow, and you can't really understand what's going on. He grows up into a kid that's a little older, but he also doesn't understand a little bit of what's going on, and it gets confusing. It's only when he grows up as an adult in the end that he takes up his own voice and the narrator shifts into first person. If you're interested in good vocabulary choices and evolving narratives, then this is the book for you, and I did really enjoy it. I am, after all, a postmodernist bitch. It's just that the subject didn't really interest me that much. It's just this random kid that grows up and decides to become his own man. I do think that it was interesting that he's Irish, because there's this entire Irish thing. Families talking about politics on Christmas night, and the kid gets bullied because he read Byron and is apparently a heretic. All this Irish crap. Catholics and religion and England. That part was actually really interesting. I really liked it. It's interesting to me because I was not raised religious, but if you're Irish, then yeah, this book probably doesn't have a lot for you because it doesn't bring you this new environment. You already live in it. But let's say that you want to read about someone's life and you want to read about someone that actually has something to say. Well, I do recommend reading The Trash Room by Carolina Maria de Jesus, which is a black woman that is really poor, lives in one of the favelas, one of the slums here in Brazil. And it's essentially her diary, and that means this is non-fiction, so it does have the little pizzazz of feeling like you're actually learning something. And it's much easier to read and it's much more interesting. You actually see her day-to-day life. It's actually really shocking sometimes, but the most shocking thing is how boring it is, really. I mean, it's not boring in the sense that you will get bored reading it, because you won't. She is a very interesting person with very interesting perspectives. The thing is that she lives a very monotonous life, and remember that thing I said in the 4chan video where the thing about poverty is that it's always repeating, it's always a cycle, it never ends? Yeah, that's what this diary shows. Every day she goes and grabs water and she has to collect paper and she worries about food, and it's just going to happen for the rest of her life. In fact, after this book got published, she got some money, she got a house, but then she got poor again and she had to return to picking up paper. It's pretty upsetting. I actually got this edition with a bunch of essays on it. It's really interesting. I do highly recommend this book if you're one of those Twitter people like, oh my god, I'm not gonna read a classic written by a white European man. Like, you read this, it's pretty good. And if you're a person that is interested in narratives and narrators being involved in a very interesting postmodernist way, or if you're interested in politics in Ireland, then yeah, sure, go read A Portrait of a Young Artist. I do recommend it.